So I called my October TBR the overly ambitious October TBR. And whoa, was that prophetic. So I'm going to try to bounce back in November. Let's talk about the books I'm going to read this November. This is my November TBR. Hey everyone, welcome to my November 2022 TBR. October was a little rough. I'm going to bounce back and I'm going to give you 9 books that I think I'm going to read this month. I'm going to call it the November 9. It's got a nice little ring to it. Could have chose 8, could have chose 10. Doesn't quite work as well. November 9 is what I'm going with. But first, let's check in and see on that overly ambitious October TBR how I did. So I did predict 9 books last month, but I had a very busy work month. I also had a few chunkers on this list. So out of those 9, I read 6 of them. So still not a bad total. If you'd like to see short reviews and ratings for those 6 books plus one other that I read in the month of October, I'll upload that video in about a week. So of the 3 unread books on October's TBR, 1 will be in November and 2 more I'll just kick down the road and you'll see those in a future TBR video. So I am excited for these November 9 books that I'm going to read. I have a couple new releases, a couple book series I'm going to close out, and I'm excited to hopefully get back into the swing of things after a very, very busy work month. But let's start with the first one that I will be reading in November, really finishing up because I'm about halfway through as I'm filming this. Today's the 29th. This is Fool's Quest by Robin Hobb, the second book of the Fits in the Fool trilogy. I'm loving it. Robin Hobb is my favorite fantasy author. This, in addition to being the second book in the Fits in the Fool trilogy, is the 15th of the 16 books in the realm of the Elderlings. This is a journey that I have just loved every step of it. And it's one of the few times I can honestly say that as I get to the end of a book series, I feel more than just happiness. I feel a little bit of sadness because I'm not going to be in particularly hanging out with Fitz like I have in so far 8 books in this series. I am looking forward to the end and I can't wait to talk about it with all of you at some point after I finish these. But Fool's Quest is number 1 on the TBR this month. Number 2 is something from the Arcanum Unbounded collection by Brandon Sanderson, and that is Mistborn Secret History, which is a novella that Sanderson wrote after the first 3 books of Mistborn Era 2, which I have been rereading the last few months because of a book that I'll talk about later on this TBR. But I just have a feeling that the lore, the behind-the-scenes things going on in the secret history of Mistborn, I think it's going to be important for this last book of Mistborn Era 2. So I thought it'd be good to just refresh my memory. Plus, I really loved that novella. I really loved encountering some of the characters from the first trilogy in that novella. So I'm looking forward to picking that up. It's a good change of pace as well because the length of the Robin Hobb book versus this novella, the writing style of Robin Hobb versus Sanderson, it just provides a great contrast. So that'll be the second thing that I read this month. And the third thing will be Assassin's Fate, the end of the Fits in the Fool trilogy, the end of this long journey through the realm of the Elderlings. I can't wait to dig into this, even though I'm not done with the second book. But those will be the first three books this month. After that, I'm going to be picking up Children of the Mind by Orson Scott Card. Now, this is the 4th and final book of the Ender Quartet. I refuse to acknowledge the existence of the Ender Quintet because Ender in Exile does not belong. I have a full video about all these Ender books, reading advice, kind of wading through the quartet and the quintet and all of those sorts of things in December. So look forward to that. I'll be honest, I'm not 100% enthusiastic about reading this book because I absolutely hated the way Xenocide ended. The last 50 or 60 pages of that was truly dreadful in my opinion. So I'm not exactly enthusiastic about this. So hopefully my low expectations will result in something that I do enjoy. In closing out this series, and then December, I will be reading The Last Shadow, which is supposed to wrap up the quartet and the Shadow series altogether. Okay, after I finish Children of the Mind, the next thing I'm going to read is a new release by Michael Connelly called Desert Star. This is being released this month, and this is a work of crime fiction. Michael Connelly is my go-to in the crime fiction genre. And regardless of genre, Michael Connelly is the most consistent author I've read. He has not written a bad book. He is just 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5 every single time. He's a master plotter, and a Connelly book comes out and I read it. I've been reading a lot of fantasy and science fiction, and I feel the need to get away from those genres a little bit. So this is the only one in November, but you'll see a lot more other kinds of genres in my December TBR when I talk about that. So after Desert Star, the next thing that I'll be picking up, this is a chunker. Man, this is a heavy book. This is Olympos by Dan Simmons. This is part of the duology Ilium and Olympos, and I read Ilium last month. So again, if you want to see my full review on Ilium, it will be in that October book roundup that I'll upload in the next week or so. I really like the way the story finished, as far as it left a lot of questions in my mind. And that actually resulted in maybe a lower than stellar rating, but it makes me very enthusiastic about reading this book. And this is actually a little bigger than Ilium. It's a pretty dense read. I was a little surprised by that. I didn't expect that, because I had read Dan Simmons before, and I never thought that his books were very dense. But Ilium was quite dense, and if you want to hear more about that, I'll talk about that in that book roundup in a week or so. But I'm definitely looking forward to closing out this series. After I finish Olympos, I'll be closing out another series, and this is another new release in November. And of course, that is The Lost Metal by Brandon Sanderson. This is the 4th and final book of Mistborn Era 2. This series I've enjoyed quite a bit, and I like how it's building to something I think really big, and I trust Sanderson. I think he's going to give a great ending to this series. So I'm definitely looking forward to picking that one up after Olympos. So my last two of this November 9, as I'm calling it, I have this omnibus that has 3 books by Joe Haldeman. This is the Peace and War Omnibus. The 3 books are The Forever War, Forever Free, and Forever Peace. I could have picked one and made it the November 8. I could have picked 3 and made it the November 10, but I'm going to read 2 of these and make it that November 9. So I think I'll read The Forever War and Forever Free. And I know that's not publication order if you have read these books, but those 2 link together, and those are the way that they're ordered in this omnibus. So I'm going to read this omnibus in order. I have read Forever War quite a long time ago, but I think of it very fondly. It's a work of science fiction where Joe Haldeman took his experiences as a soldier in the Vietnam War and wrote a science fiction tale about it. And I remember it being a very, very strong work of science fiction, like top 10 of all time for me. So I'm looking forward to reading that and reading the 2 other books in this series. So hey, that is my November 9, my November TBR. If you've read any of these, I'd love to talk with you in the comments below. Spoiler free, of course, because I haven't read them yet. I'd also love to hear what you plan on reading in this November. Drop me a comment below what you're reading this November as well. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. If you'd like to see a book featured on a future TBR video, my Amazon wish list is below. You can also find me on Twitter and Goodreads. I'd love to interact with you there. As always, thank you for watching. Until next time, goodbye.